Mayor here. I brought you back to the River Severn today. Heavy rain Wednesday and the river's now 5 foot up, so it's going to be a great day to do a bit of feeder fishing. It's the first real big flood of the year, so there's going to be a lot of debris coming down, but I think the fish have been waiting for this extra water to have a good feed, get rid of the remnants of summer and all the crap out the river. So this could be quite an exciting few hours. Severn can be moody. There's a bit of foam on the water, which isn't a good sign, but I am confident we're going to catch some fish. Let's show you through the baits that I'm going to be using and also the rods and setup. Right then, I'm going to approach this with a meat feeder today. What I like to do is cut the meat into 6mm cubes with a cutter, and I do that with one of these, with the old traditional wire meat cutter. Brilliant little thing, carry them in your bag, chop a whole tin of luncheon meat in seconds. Probably one of the best devices invented for this thing. So here we go. So I'll be cutting up 2 tins of luncheon meat. It's as simple as that. So there we have it, 2 small tins of meat cut into 6mm cubes. Okay, the other bait I'll be using today is pellets. Now I found some of the best ones to be these ABC 4mm halibuts. These are available in a kilo bag, resealable. And I'll just tip probably half a pint into a bait box, that's all you need. There's a bit of a misconception on this river that you need buckets and bucketfuls of bait to catch barbel. You really don't. What we have here is 2 tins of meat and probably no more than a pint of pellets in there. And what I do like to do is add a little bit of this MI7 glug. This is like a garlicky protein liquid, and I just put a little bit on the pellets and a small bit in the meat. I do find it's a good attractant in coloured water. I'd only use it in conditions like today, but it is yeah, it's worth doing that. It's bought me a few extra bites on a hard day. What I've got here on my bait tray is I've damped down roughly half a pint of the 4mm pellets. So I've damped down half a pint of those. There's my 6mm cube luncheon meat, and there we have various hooked baits. There's some 6 and 8mm pellet and some luncheon meat which I'll be punching for hook bait. Tackle wise, I've set up a single 14-foot feeder rod. This one's a Shakespeare Super Team. It's a trusty old rod. It's got a 4-ounce tip in it, which is quite a stiff tip, so I'll be fishing for dropbacks. I've coupled that up with a Shimano 5000, big powerful reel with lots of winding power. There's no room for compromise with gear with the barbel fishing. The reel itself loaded with 8-pound Maxima. I do like to use Maxima in conditions like today. Thickness of the line doesn't make a lot of difference. 8 pounds about right. I don't like using line going up to 12 pound. You want that, if you do snag up, you want that line to break. It's no good leaving loads of tackle in the peg, which is then could be an hindrance later on, or certainly an hindrance to the next person that fishes here. So yeah, I like to keep things fairly simple. The rig itself, you'll see I've got that just trapped between 2 float stops. Dead simple with a twizzled boom, which I'll just put my hook length onto. It's probably the simplest hassle-free feeder rig you'll come across. never tangles, and also if it does break away, there's nothing to tether the fish up out there, so it's really safe. It's a safe rig, and there's not much there, there's not many knots. There's one figure of 8 loop. What I do see on the Severn is a lot of different contraptions with all sorts of swivels and line stops and all sorts of beads. There's just no place for it. 2 line stops, 2 float stops, trapping a swivel to an 8-inch twizzled loop, and obviously then I can just clip my feeder on. I can change my feeder as I need to through the day. Should conditions change, I can put a bigger feeder on, or a bigger weight feeder. That's a 4-hole Drennan, and it's one of the grip mesh ones. As you can see, it's got the gripper prongs inside. So what that does, when I push some of the damp down pellet into there, it will slightly grip it and hold it long enough to get the bait down to the bottom, and then the current will push the bait out. So it's a little bit more raw robust than fishing a block end feeder where the bait would just be washed straight through on a day like today. What I can also do is compact meat into there. I can put meat and pellets as a mix, so I can then vary the hook bait through the day. I can fish 8mm pellet, or I can switch to meat. All I've got to do is change the hook length. Another thing worth mentioning is I keep all my hook lengths now on these foam spools. Now I've got a massive range in this box. This is a Preston box. I've got 18 hook lengths in there, 18 spools with hook lengths on. I've got a lot of banded ones in this box. This is obviously my feeder one. I've got some with long hairs, and obviously some with the band almost against the shank of the hook. Various different hooks. Most of them though are tied to B911 X's. That's my favourite for barbel. Hook lengths vary from 019 right the way through to 024 for barbel fishing. Today I'm going to be starting with a size 10 B911X. That'll be tied to 024 power line with a 3-foot tail, and I'll probably start with meat. That's what I intend to do, start with meat and go from there. That's what we're doing, punch meat today, each long piece. On the gate match, put it into the meat, and then we have the hook bait. Size 10 hook, 10mm punch meat. We've just had our first cast. And what I will do is I'll time the casts to 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes I'll reel in, recast until I get some kind of response, and take it from there. I generally do that for an hour. Now as you feel your way into the match or the session, you might find you'll then need to wait 10 minutes or even 15 minutes. You've got to establish what is bite time. Quite often though, in conditions like today, you won't be able to leave it in for 10 minutes. The debris coming down the river will dislodge the feeder, and again reel in and recast. What I've found is you either get a bite within 30 seconds or you'll get one after 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Seems to be you either get a bite at the point you want to pick the rod up to recast, or straight away immediately. And what you'll notice is I've got the rod positioned downstream. Now the reason I do that is when I cast in, I pay off some line, I feed a bow. By positioning the rod slightly downstream, there's less compression on the tip. So I'm fishing for drop back bites. When I get a bite, the rod tip will spring back. If the rod's bent over, right over like that, you've waited too long. The bite is always a sharp jab and a drop back before it surges over. So I've got the rod positioned across my leg. I'll actually feel the drop back sometimes, I'll actually feel the bite, and I'll look up and the rod will be straight. Now, that's one of the best parts of barbel fishing, is the bite. That's the most exciting part. Today I'm fishing a 3-ounce feeder. That's a 20 gram, which comes with the feeder, with a 2-ounce add-on lead. So to get 3 ounces, I find that's the optimum size to fish that on the crease. Sometimes you'll go up to 4, 5, 6 ounces, but that's not ideal. You can find a peg, even on a river with 5 or 6 foot, that you can hold with 3 ounces, 2 or 3 rod lengths out. You're probably in the right sort of swim to catch fish. Today I'm fishing a crease. It's 3 rod lengths out, and it's nice and smooth there. It's a lovely smooth glide over gravel. Fish like to sit on a gravel bottom. If I go further over into this swim, it's rocky. Don't really want to fish there. I could start losing gear, and I'll need more weight to hold bottom. So I'm quite comfortable fishing a 3-ounce feeder, 3 rods, onto a nice smooth gravel bottom. I'd say today that's probably 9 foot deep with the extra water on. It'd normally be 3 or 4 foot. We've got 5 foot of extra water on the river. mentioned earlier, I use a 14-foot rod. I have got 13s as well, but I like to use a 14 in these conditions because you've often got a lot of stuff on the inside, brambles and weeds and bushes, and just being that little bit further out you can actually bring the fish up before you pull them into the grass. It can be really important, especially with more water on than there is today. If I was sat back there, it'd be really important. That 14-foot rod could be the difference between landing a fish and losing a fish, especially on a day when you might only get one bite and the last thing you want to do is lose it in the grass. But these old 14-footers have served me well over the years. Shorter rods are great when you're fishing a low river and you're wading out, and you can bring fish up close to the landing net. 11 or 12 foot rods are great. But on the big flood conditions like today, I can keep the line out of the water as well. I can hold that rod further up, it's 2 foot longer, so it's keeping more line out of the water. Without having to put the rod right up here where I'm got neck height looking at the sky. I want that a nice 45-degree angle. It's comfortable. To be fishing it for 5 hours, you want to be comfortable. You don't want to go home with a stiff neck. It's quite important to get yourself comfortable as well. On your box, keep your knees straight to your hips. Just make sure you're really comfortable because you're going to be sat there a long time waiting for bites. So I'll be looking for that one flurry of bites through the day. So you have to, maintain concentration levels, ring the changes, try and keep making it happen. It's not going to just happen for you. You've got to really think about it some days. I always start fishing in front of myself, always cast in front, and then that gives me room to move down the peg and search if I need to. I may know that I'm going to catch barbel there, but I won't start there. I'll always start in front. The reason for that as well is if you start casting a feeder downstream to begin with, if the fish back off from the feeder, they've backed out of your peg completely. So you must always start in front. Obviously don't chuck it in a snag, find a snag-free area, but start in front and then work your way down. Other pegs you'll fish and there'll be a feature on the other bank or a bush here, and it's quite obvious where you need to fish. But on this swim here, there isn't really any features. It's a long straight gravel run, and the fish will be moving around on that run all day. They could be there, then they'll move down, and then they'll move back up. took quite a bit of line off me downstream. Looked like a good fish. Well, there we have it then, a double figure Severn barbel on the meat feeder. Proof the method works, one rod approach over the moon.